Hi, my name is Parris Rigby, and this is episode 1 of What's in the Box with Parris Rigby. You are going to learn throughout the episodes of 11 years of a complete life hijacking, in which I was stalked. Every account I had fraud. Today we will start out with just the year of 2011, when my world turned upside down. But before I go into the details of 2011, I would like to tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in Richardson, Texas. My parents are Beth and Jay Rigby. My father is a serial entrepreneur. My younger brother graduated from the Naval Academy and he's a valedictorian of SMU Law School. I came from a family where to excel was important. Your integrity was important. I graduated from Texas Tech University and have had a school with a teaching degree. When I got my teaching degree, I then taught elementary and high school for 5 years. After that, I decided to go into entrepreneurial endeavors. In 2009, I owned a staffing company. I was building my first website and I could not communicate. My web developer and web designer could not communicate. I was literally crying to Dell Computers because I didn't understand any of it. So I took it upon myself to go to Barnes & Noble and buy a book called CHS, Style Sheets, JavaScript, and HTML for Dummies. Spent 2 years teaching myself 5 computer languages. I can't decide if that was the dumbest thing I've ever done or if that was the smartest thing. But I always knew whatever I did moving forward, having no idea what my life would be like 11 years later, that I needed to understand the intricacies of technology and SEO and SEM. In 2011, I was running what was the largest Halloween charity event in Dallas. I started it from scratch. I created it to where over 1,000 people were attending the event. The net proceeds went to individuals in need or charities in need. We always chose an individual or a charity as a group with the host and hostesses. In 2011, suspect number 1 came to me out of the blue and wanted to sponsor part of our party. I said, that's wonderful, but there's nothing to sponsor because there wasn't anything to sponsor. We weren't doing sponsorships or anything. This person was very persistent and wanting to write me a check for $1,000. I would not accept the check for $1,000 because what was I going to do with it? It certainly wasn't going into my business account or my personal account. So at the time, one of the owners of the venue in which we held that event, I called her and I said, somebody is persistent about wanting to write me a check for $1,000. The owner came up with the idea that what we would do is they could write the check to the venue and then put hors d'oeuvres for the guests at the party under this individual's company name, one of this individual's company name. Since that time, my life has never been the same. I had no idea what I was in store for. I realized just recently when I was going back through all the evidence to do this podcast that my financial fraud started in 2011. In 2011 is when things got weird. I don't have the personality that says just because things look odd that I go to the worst case scenario. But I started coming home and I would have, picture frames broken and random things. But I just thought to myself, maybe, I just thought, who knows? I did not go to the point where I realized that I would later endure violent home invasions. At that time, I was busy. I owned my own business. I was running my own charity. And I just was trying to keep up with everything. I realized a lot of times in both my personal and business bank account, that the balances were off. I also realized that a financial institution that I used for the tickets, for the guests to purchase tickets at our event, the balances seemed odd. But I was a very busy person. I was active socially. I was active personally and in business. So when things started going awry, such as showing up at meetings multiple times, and my client would say, I sent you an email, Parris, and we canceled the meeting. And I didn't know that. At that time, I did not know forensics as far as computers. I knew computer code, and it never dawned on me that I would actually have somebody trying to sabotage my life and my career. At that time, I realized I was just trying to keep up with everything in the day-to-day life. It wasn't until the last few months of this year, 2022, that I actually realized that my financial fraud started in January of 2011 in both my personal and business accounts. The financial fraud stemmed many different ways. It was, let me pull one out of the box. On this statement right here, it says that there was a check, an ACH debit check to Target for $58.63. If you go to the back of my statement, there is no automatic debit check. There were 2 pre-authorized debits to Walgreens on my account. I did not make pre-authorized debit to Walgreens in my life. This document is from my business account in 2011. On this statement, there are 4 internet check copy requests. I never made these. I didn't even know you could do this. This next statement is from my business account, March of 2011. The debit card that was on my account ended in 1801. That was the debit card that I held. No one else was on my account, and no one else had authorization to ever use my account. However, there were deposits made on this particular statement from a bank card ending in 8566. As well as various times when there were mystery deposits made or images of mystery deposits on the back of my statements. A lot of times I would see a crease across the top here, which made me think that they folded when the fraud was happening. They were folding the checks over, the deposit slips over, and they were using part of my handwriting. However, this particular one is not even my handwriting. This one right here has the mystery crease as well. And part of this is my handwriting, but part of this is not my handwriting. And so it makes me wonder if that's how they would do it, with the mystery crease folding it over. April of 2011, for my business account, there's a bank card with a deposit ending in 8566. The bank card that I had for this account is 1801. I also want to let you know that I never ever made any ATM deposits ever until I was with a different bank in 2018. But my bank card was 1801, and there was a deposit made through bank card 8566. As well as on the back, there is a deposit, that same mystery deposit, and it's not my handwriting. May of 2011, for my business account, I have 2 bank deposits with the mystery debit card ending in 8566. I also have debits from my account, fraudulent charges, that were made with the debit card ending in 8566. Remember, the debit card belonging to this account at this time ended in 1801. There were also 2 internet statement copies. There was an internet check copy request. Again, I did not make these. I had paper requests, which is what you're seeing here. I didn't know you could even request a check copy. As well as one of the bank card deposits that ended in the mystery debit card of 8566 was for $0. One of them was also a large amount that is not mine. Neither one of these deposits on this mystery debit card, ending in 8566, are imaged on the back of my statement. June of 2011, for my business account, again, there is 2 deposits with the mystery bank card ending in 8566, as well as 2 fraudulent transactions with the debit card ending in 8566. You will notice my debit card, again, it ends in 1801. On the back here, there is 1 deposit or 1 withdrawal for $1,500. Nowhere on the front of my statement is there a withdrawal for $1,500. So this is a withdrawal image, but it's not on the front of the statement. July of 2011, in my business account, I have transfers for random amounts to a financial institution that we used, and probably many of you do, for our ticket purchase. I know I would not have made a purchase through this financial institution because I would have used my own debit card. There are also 2 withdrawals from the mystery 8566 card that is not mine. On the back, the images, there is a deposit for $2,300. This deposit is not my handwriting. My handwriting is over here where you can tell that I put my name and everything, but the dollar amounts over here on the, right-hand side is not my handwriting. I have pretty distinct handwriting. Business account, August of 2011. There are, this one gets very interesting. There are 2 bank card debits with the mystery bank card 8566. There is also a large purchase through my debit card ending in 1801 for Mac. I have never gone to a Mac store and purchased anything in 2011. I have no idea what was purchased. September of 2011, through my business bank account, I have 3 mystery deposits. 1 mystery deposit ends in a bank card ending in 8566. Then there are 2 additional mystery deposits, but this gets really interesting. This bank card ends in 1392, and those 2 deposits are for $0. Then there is a check that was evidently received electronically, and I looked at the back of it on my statement, and on my statement here, I don't know. There's no one that says that it was paid to. So money left my account through a mystery electronic check that I didn't do, and I can't even tell who it was to. But then again, this is when they started using not just 1 mystery debit card to make transactions, deposits, and withdrawals. They started with 2 because $0. Then we go to October of 2021 for my business account. Somehow there is a deposit for $0. This one is not tied to any bank cards. It just says $0. There is also a GoDaddy payment for GoDaddy software. I've never worked for GoDaddy. I have purchased domains in the past from GoDaddy. I have no idea what kind of software I could have purchased. I didn't purchase. November of 2011, for my business account, there's a deposit that's made from PayPal. PayPal was only used for business, for the tickets that were used when we had our charity events. The deposit was for $270. I believe this is partially when the PayPal fraud began. There is another deposit on the back here for a rather large amount. This deposit has that mystery crease on it, which is what I believe whoever did this committed some of the fraud. They took it and they would crease it over because the top part has over here on the right-hand side, that's my handwriting, clearly. But the dollar amounts that are in with the deposit for this large deposit is not my handwriting. December of 2011, for my business account, I have another PayPal transfer for a rather large amount, $640. There is nothing that I would have ever paid for $640. Then I have a debit reversal that I have no idea what that debit reversal was because it doesn't say. I also have another mystery debit card ending in 1392. My debit card, again, for this account was 1801. I have 3 check copy requests, which I didn't even know that you could make. And then I got charged $1 for a check image fee. Same bank, now we're to my personal account. March of 2011, there was a check to Target. It was supposedly an electronic check. On the back, there is no copy of a electronic check to Target. The debit card that I had for this account ended 4143. There are 2 electronic checks made out to Walgreens. I have been a customer of Walgreens for a long time, and I do not, my statements, I know that at this time in my life, because things were starting to turn upside down, my mother would go and pick stuff up for me. These electronic checks or pre-authorizations are not mine. April of 2011, in my personal account, I think this is when my virtual office fraud started, because the payment was made with a check, but it went through as an electronic image of the original check. You will learn, and later, as this podcast goes on, that through the years, there was tremendous financial fraud with my virtual office that I had at the time. My personal account in July of 2011, I started to pick up on the fact that there was fraud going on in my account. So I had a new debit card issued that ends in 0679. So we went from 4143 of my card to 0679. August of 2011, in my personal account, there is a deposit that is clearly not my handwriting. It has the mystery crease across the top, but not only did they would sometimes leave my handwriting where I wrote in my name and everything on the right or the left-hand side. This time they took it upon themselves to write in everything, including the deposit. And it is, even on my best handwriting day, not my handwriting. October of 2011, in my personal account, there are internet transfers to an account. There is 2 deposits from PayPal for small cents, but it still matters. Also, there is a deposit, and you can see on the left-hand side that that's my handwriting. On the right-hand side, where the numbers are, it's not my handwriting. And there are initials changing the deposit amount that are not even my initials. I guess this day, this person could have been off their meds. So, what's next in the box? 2011. I started having random charges from GoDaddy. One of them was for a quick blog cast deluxe. As much as I would love to do a blog, I have nothing to say, and I did not purchase this, and I've known this for a long time. This was actually purchased on November 16th of 2011, as well as this was when my email address at the time, which was parris@thetoprung.org. I didn't know a lot about MX records, but I noticed that at this time, my clients would say to me, Parris, you didn't get the email. And I would say to them, I didn't get their email, and they would say to me, they didn't get my email. I did not understand, and after the first couple of times, I thought, well, maybe they were just busy, people use that as an excuse. After this happened multiple times with multiple people, I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on. So I called GoDaddy. My MX records had evidently been manipulated and changed. So I don't know. This was my first GoDaddy account. I have been through multiple. I called GoDaddy somewhere on a cell phone, recorded the conversation, and it's not GoDaddy's fault. They would literally say to me that they'd never heard of this before. I finally just was like, Uncle, right here. So my emails were starting to be sabotaged. People were not receiving them. I was sending them out. And so I finally that's when I learned how to do screenshots. And I would screenshot the email where I had sent it to somebody because I didn't want them to think that I was being dishonest, because I know some people use that as an excuse because, technology does happen, things happen. And they would go, wow, I didn't realize that. So next, what's in the box? As much as I love you, AT&T, I have statements for my business account in 2011. Same account, same everything. One account, I only owe $86.50. Or one, invoice. My other invoice, which this invoice was due on June 4th of 2011. Then the other one was due is $249.36. Both same account number, same everything. And this is only the beginning of a large percentage of what happened with a very reputable national cellular company. September of 2011, I received a letter in the mail from the same company. It says, Dear Parris Rigby, thank you for your time and consideration during our recent meeting regarding your AT&T Real Yellow Pages and YP.com advertising program. I won't read you the rest of the letter because it's boring. However, I never met with this person. I even wrote it on there, and I've kept it over the years. And what's interesting is the quote-unquote contract that I was supposed to have has my business name at the time, but I owe $0. I have no idea what I supposedly signed up for. I feel this is one of the many forms of identity theft that I dealt with. Then, on November 12th of 2010, it even says here that I owe $0. And here's another contract. I never met with this person, and I wrote it very clear on this page. So when I received it in the mail, I just put it in a file like, okay, what is this? But through the years, I realized that I know my identity has been stolen, transferred, sold off, redone, sold again, and over again. What's next in the box? Oh, this was a good one. This one's good. Okay, so I had Verizon Wireless as my network, or my, my internet provider at the time. My bills, we started this account in 2008. My bills had been just, the same amount every year. At this time, things were getting crazy and nobody could figure out what was going on, and it was happening so fast. So my accountant called me and said jokingly, "Parris, did you leave the country?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, Parris, your bill has doubled and tripled over the last few months." I then called the company, recorded the conversation on some phone, because I've been through like 20 phones. And the nice gentleman, the representative, explained to me what was going on, why my bill had increased. My bill had increased because there were people, suspect number 1 specifically, using an alias name and a different phone number, having conversations in my wireless stuff. When I spoke to the representative, the nice representative at the company, he said to me, this number that this suspect number 1 was using to do all of this was through kgbpeople.com. So in my mind, some people call me Pollyanna. Allison Ainsworth will laugh at this. I was like, KGB, I've heard of that, but I didn't really know. So I went to the website. He told me to go to the website and type in the phone number. I did. I typed in the phone number. Sure enough, suspect number 1's profile and everything popped up. However, on my Verizon Wireless, through these conversations, suspect number 1 used an alias name. The same alias name that was used to manipulate, sabotage one of my events, one of my Cinco de Mayo events, I think in 2012. So anyway, I did some research, or as much research as I possibly could at the time, on the phone number that was being used. This was not that person's number that they always used, because as I learned later on, they had a multitude of numbers. I had never seen so many phone numbers in my entire life. In fact, there's a box over there with just the phone numbers, and it's about this thick with one phone number on each page. I mean, I know I've been through a lot of phone numbers in the last 11 years because of all the hacking and all this, every stalking and everything, but I tend to keep one phone. I did as much research as I could. I really don't understand what I did, but I've got the research right here. So, as you will learn throughout this podcast, throughout the next couple of years, after we close the account, there were so many weird things happening, such as my father's name being on the bill, the address changing to my parents' address, it going to my dad's email. I mean, things that were never on the original bill. You will learn that as this podcast goes on. However, right here, I can say that there was a text message on November 25th, December 10th, December 22nd, and then we move into the next year. And there was a whole bunch, and my billing statement was doubling, so I was basically paying for somebody to have correspondence through my Verizon Wireless. As the years move on, there's a lot more that happened even after I closed the account. Here is a screenshot of the actual messages that this particular individual was doing or having and signing it as an alias. Sometimes this person would sign it their initials, and sometimes they would sign it as one of the many alias names that were used. Let's see here. The rest of this information I will display later on as the years progress, because as we're doing this podcast, we're doing it by year. So the rest of this information, it continues on through 2012, 13, 14, even after we close the account, We were still getting billed and still wondering what was going on, and we got it all. So I'll leave this at 2011. What's next in the box? This happens to be from my parents. Both of my parents are victims of this hijacking, stalking, hacking, everything. So in 2011, a very well-known computer company, my parents started receiving bills for large amounts. They originally thought maybe I had purchased something, but I did not have their credit card, and I would not have purchased something to these amounts without even asking. But I was, at that time I was self-sufficient. So we couldn't figure it out. At the time, this is when everything was weird and we didn't know what was going on. So we saved the bill and just wrote notes on it about like, what was this? What was this? I remember calling the actual company and asking them what in the world is going on. I do not remember what they said because it was becoming overwhelming at that point. To my knowledge, this is the only fraud from this particular company. Whereas other companies that I've mentioned thus far today, and I will bring up as this podcast goes on, the fraud just continued and continued and continued and continued. And some of it went on for 11 years. But this, I think, is the only thing that happened there. Let's see what else is in the box. You know what? That is all of the evidence that we have for today. One of the main questions that I've wondered and people have asked, it's like the $1 million question over the last 11 years is, why was I targeted? What was the deal? I am nobody. I don't sit on a pot of gold. I am somebody that works hard. Just living a normal life. I believe after I reviewed the research or reviewed the evidence for the podcast over the last 3 or 4 months, and sometimes over the years, I would take my evidence and I would just be gathering it because in any one day, I could have had a home invasion, a poisoning with arsenic, an animal abuse, a car tampering, a financial fraud. The whole shebang. So sometimes I was just gathering the evidence and just putting it on USBs or just putting it in folders. I think that I have come to a conclusion as to why I was targeted. I believe that I was targeted because I held these large charity events. And I've always been the person that kept up with relationships. These relationships, and I always kept everybody's name and number and email address, and I would always send birthday cards out, handwritten thank you cards. Nobody could read my handwriting. But I believe that I was targeted for that because after Suspect 1 and Suspect 2 got involved in the events, that's when everything went completely haywire. I also realized that there was a pattern that after many of the events that we did, I would have various people contact me and say, wow, this account was sabotaged, or I'm having financial fraud, or I'm having identity theft. So it is my belief that I was targeted for the database that I held because multiple times it was stolen off my computer. I got to the point at one time a couple of times where I wrote it down on a piece of paper, everybody's name and everybody's number, kind of like, Mayflower, paper and pencil. One time, on purpose, after many home invasions, what I did is I was living in a building in Dallas. I purposely left a database on my counter because at that time I knew every time I was leaving my home, there was going to be somebody coming in. I purposely wrote down somebody's name and I gave them a different last name. Did that on purpose to trying to figure out what was going on with all of these, with all the database. Besides the financial fraud and the identity theft, this particular individual started receiving mail in the mail under his name, but that bogus last name that I had left on my counter that was stolen during one of my home invasions. So if you ever attended one of my events over the years and you had become, after you attended the event, a victim of identity theft, financial fraud, or anything, feel free to message me on the Facebook inbox. My Facebook is Parris Rigby, 2 R's. It's of my belief, I have no proof, that there are a lot more victims out there. That's the only thing that I can think of and the only pattern that I can see besides making my life miserable and trying to destroy me, that would allow for the way or the reason that I was targeted. I want to thank Domingo. He's the production behind all of this today. He does an amazing job, Domingo Rivera. He's also one of our amazing officers. I want to thank the men and women in blue and all the people in law enforcement for all your hard work that you do on a daily basis. I could not do your job, but I certainly appreciate everything that you do, and your families, and all the time that you take away from your family to go be and just make this world safe. Next episode, we will start with 2012. You will notice over the span of the years that as the years go on, these boxes get fuller and fuller and fuller. And we will have physical evidence as well as just not only the paper evidence. Thank you for watching today, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Oh.